Welcome to this psycho-philosophical spoken word internet series, Inalienable Paradise. This is aimed to providing stories and tactics to help people, even in the most traumatic and inescapable of circumstances, to help people with things universally accessible overcome such circumstances or feelings of terror, worthlessness, and helplessness. We hope we will provide the help that so many people need, and that you will find at least some value in this. Thank you. My friends, thank you first of all for your attention, which I value more than I can say. As always, I don't know how to best begin except to state directly that I feel a certain obligation in speaking about this. It is an obligation not to any institution or achievement of machinery, but it's just 2 lines of a poem by Thomas Merton, and it carries a particular relevance of the recurring theme of Inalienable Paradise. And I'm about to tell you the 2-line poem right now. It's titled A Prayer to Jailed Ladies, and it goes like this. Keep me in your pocket if you have one. Keep me in your heart if you have no pocket. I will try to say a few things about the importance of these lines, about what we hope they may do, and what their significance is in the broader scheme of human life. To speak of their significance, one must first realize or visualize what their position is in the development of our common experience. We have reached a stage where 2 lines such as these can serve as calibration, a basic unit of human reassurance, comparable to achievement of bygone days in other domains. The one average figure is this, that a human being can be remembered, held, and cherished in something as small as a pocket, or if even that is lacking, in the heart. This includes already something more than the gesture itself. It includes memory, solidarity, preservation. One might ask why such brevity is needed and what problems it solves. Most of us have asked this for years in different forms. Most of us have answered it by now to our own satisfaction, so I will not repeat familiar arguments. Instead, I will mention 1 or 2 areas where these lines are particularly relevant. The first is the literal. The poem names the pocket. A pocket is small, practical, easily overlooked, and yet in it one may place a letter, a photograph, a prayer, a card, a token. A pocket is the memory of cloth. When Merton writes, "Keep me in your pocket if you have one," he identifies the simplest storage place for care. The importance of this is considerable. It teaches us that preservation need to not be grand. It may be humble, a folded note against the fabric. This kind of preservation, if one were to measure it, requires almost no space at all, and yet its value is vast. A second area is the absence of the pocket, where Merton turns to the heart. Keep me in your heart if you have no pocket. Here he names the internal register, which is larger than any garment. The heart can hold far more than the pocket, and its endurance is longer. In effect, the poem scales upward from the literal to the spiritual. If the small receptacle fails, the greater one suffices. We know today that to hold another in one's heart is at least as effective in human terms as the pocket is in practical terms. This is a calculation which, from start to finish, with the poem itself, takes about a moment to perform, but the result is so enduring. We also know that this calculation cannot be refined ad infinitum. We also know that this calculation cannot be refined ad infinitum. At a certain point, words lose significance if too many are piled on. The assumptions weaken. Merton avoids this by restricting himself to only 2 lines. That level, as we know, is enough. It is the minimal working model of solidarity. A longer poem would have introduced excess. This one strikes precisely the level where memory and dignity remain intact. Or memory and honor, I prefer. The third area is communal. These lines are not only for the one who prays them, but for anyone who hears them. One could easily imagine them recited in a prison cell, whispered by a visitor, or remembered in solitude. The important thing is that they are reproducible, transferable, and easily stored. A community could carry them as easily as an individual. They are simple enough to be remembered after hearing them once, which means they are accessible for research purposes of the soul, so to speak. To mention still another area, namely the symbolic, the pocket and the heart cover the external and the internal, the seen and the unseen. It seems extremely likely that Merton intended precisely this duality. He specifies both the garment and the spirit, both the finite and the infinite. And in so doing, he supplies redundancy. If one storage fails, the other persists. This double coding increases resilience, much as in other fields, one duplicates records to protect against loss. There is also the category of problems that these lines address indirectly. The problem of forgetfulness, the problem of erasure, the problem of despair. To keep someone in a pocket or heart is to exclude 50%, 80%, 90% of what might otherwise go missing. It is to filter out the noise of neglect. It is to ensure at least one preserved instance of care. This has been done before on minor scales, by everyone probably. A photograph carried, a name remembered, but not often expressed with such concision. Nobody in planning a spiritual program likes to commit themselves to a form too elaborate to use in daily life. If remembrance required 100 lines, we would falter. Even I would. But when it requires only 2, we can easily comply. Even finding how to remember requires efficiency. And this poem is sort of, what's the word? This poem is the supplement for that. Again here, the importance of a poem is the class of a prayer to jailed ladies. And specifically of the poem is quite evident. It belongs with those rare utterances that are simultaneously practical and transcendent. The same goes for various other calculations involving memory and compassion. In speaking of its importance, I would also like to add that those of you who have lived and suffered with the need to be remembered will appreciate what kind of reassurance it is. These lines were assembled many decades ago, yet they still run without failure. That in itself is an enormous reassurance on the state of the art of human expression, and regarding the complexities into which we may still go in the future, that this has been achieved. It's only 2 lines, but lines which carry more endurance than maybe 1,000 of superficial lines. The last thing, which is very important, I can say in fewer words, but I think it no less significant, it is this. In planning our days, in planning our lives, in trying to expand the parameters by which we measure it, it is customary and proper to ask what is necessary, what is affordable, what is cautious, what is profitable. This is right and necessary in 99 cases out of 100. The world would go to pieces if such rules were not observed. But it is terribly important that in the 1 case out of 100, something be done differently, that we take the bold course, that we do essentially what Thomas Merton did in this instance, to write a specification not for the ordinary or the cautious, but for the most powerful act of preservation possible in that day, with the state of the heart as it was, to build in 2 lines the most powerful instrument of memory. I hope this poem will be repeated often and never forgotten. I will say it one more time. Keep me in your pocket if you have one. keep me in your heart if you have no pocket. I hope you enjoyed this installment of Inalienable Paradise. If you are in some need to talk with or connect with another person, my top resources would be 7cups.com and the Upper Room Crisis Hotline at 1-888-808-8724. And they are both free of charge. And I will top this off with a Carl Sagan adage: even through your hardest days, remember we are all made of stardust.